when you disaggregate the reasons for inflation, then you understand that it is for central banks to be evidence, data-driven, to communicate clearly, but it is also for other segments of policy making that has to be in place. First and foremost, we need to recognize the importance to fight the pandemic, to build our response capabilities everywhere. And unfortunately, this is still not quite where it should be. We have 86 countries, Geoff, where the target of 40% at least vaccinations by the end of last year has not been met. 86 countries. If you compare sub-Saharan Africa to advanced economies, in sub-Saharan Africa, vaccinations 7%. In advanced economies, 70%. Obviously, this also has significance for supply chain disruptions, and it has significance on this very dangerous divergence that we are seeing in the world economy. So just to stop here, we have to recognize the complexity of challenges. We also have to recognize that even this one, inflation, is country-specific. I look at my dear good friend Kuroda-san. He has the opposite problem. He needs to lift up inflation. So that country specificity is what makes 22, in a way, even more difficult than 2020. Why? In 2020, we had similar policies everywhere because we were fighting the same problem, an economy in standstill. In 2022, conditions in countries are very different. So we cannot anymore have the same policy everywhere. It has to be country-specific. And that makes our job in 22 so much more complicated.
Absolutely, Managing Director. But of course, as we all know, there are some central banks that have a greater impact on the rest of the world than others. And in that context, let me just ask you, the talk is of the Federal Reserve, quote, regaining credibility by hiking interest rates next week. Now does that language sound unhelpful in the context of a pandemic recovery?
We have to be very humble in terms of how we determine actions at the time of high uncertainty. The Fed is acting responsibly because inflation in the United States is turning into an economic and social concern. We also know that actions by the Fed are very significant for the US. So this delicate balancing act between fighting inflation but protecting the recovery is something that I'm confident the Fed is very mindful of. The issue here is that what the Fed does has implications for the US. It has implications for other countries, especially for those that have high level of dollar-denominated debt. And there, that could throw cold water on what for some countries is already a weak recovery. And this is why what the Fed is doing to clearly communicate, to prevent surprises, is hugely important. And our message to countries with high level of dollar-denominated debt is act now. If you can extend maturities, please do it. If you have currency mismatches, now is the moment to address them. And I can tell you where my worry is highest. It is for low-income countries, where 60% of them are now either in debt distress or in the danger of debt distress. This is twice as much as in 2015. So we have to be careful how we also support those that without international support are going to be in deep, deep trouble.